Okay, now, yes. Okay, we're good.
Now we have mic.
Okay, so we had a few technical difficulties, but we're here. We're here, and we're live.
Hello, my friend.
So you should all be able to hear us and everything now. Let us know how the volume is.
Hello.
Yes.
How's the volume?
It's deep.
That's my new voice.
Kayla beveraged us.
I did beverage us. It's a lovely lavender pear.
I'm worried it's
cider.
going to do that thing where it bubbles and goes at the top.
Oh,
It's not.
I don't think it should.
Loud and clear. Okay, good. So yeah, we had some problems with the normal software I use, but you know, I have backups, and I have backups for my backups. So
always a plan B, C, and D.
yes. So, Kayla, talk to us about books.
So I'm being scolded right now, and rightfully so is fair. I literally read. I see. I can't even talk because I haven't read. I read half a book. I read a half a book. To be fair, it's the one you recommended to me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I did half of my homework. That still only gets me.
You know what
in
I
Glee.
did? I did all my homework.
No. Wait a
Okay, I think I've punished you.
No, it's fine. I really am dropping the ball everywhere. I am going to be a huge disappointment to your family.
You're just going to be really bored hearing me
No,
talk
I
about
want
all
to
the
hear
books.
about all the books. Just because I don't have time to read them doesn't mean I don't want to hear about them. I read half of this lovely book that Haley recommended to me, Project Hail Mary, and I listened to most of it, and I'm really glad I did because there's some audio things in here that you wouldn't be able to imagine. I feel like
That's why I recommended the
Yeah.
audiobook for that one. If you do, Project Hail Mary is one of my favorite
Mhm.
books. So if you do check it out, there is a character who basically speaks in musical notes. So I feel
Mhm.
like you're going to get more of the intended experience if you get an audiobook. Plus,
I
the
agree.
narrator is really good. What am I doing with my hair?
What are you doing with your hair?
Stop playing with your
Stop
hair.
it.
Stop playing with your hair.
Stop playing with your hair.
Brandon the Beldon's here. You can always count on Brandon.
Hello,
He's great.
Brandon.
Connie's here. Time Capsule TV.
Hi, everyone.
Lovely to see you. I there's accents going on. We should just get one of those little raw things. Cut
Like,
it out.
Pulling off the
I feel
stage.
like I'm going to be doing a lot of talking tonight. So why don't you tell us about Project Hail Mary?
Well, Project Hail Mary, really great. I haven't read anything else by Andy Weir. I have another book of his on my Audible. I can't remember what it's called.
The Martian?
Nope, it's not The Martian.
Artemis?
Maybe Artemis. But Doug read The Martian, and I watched the movie, and I really liked it. It's good. It's very like it kind of goes back and forth in time between like
It's like a mystery.
yeah, it's a mystery, and you're like piecing it together along with him, and he's really smart, but not so smart that you're like an idiot when you're hearing him put it all together. Like you feel smart too. I feel like this book is making me smarter, if that makes any sense.
Hey, my fellow Gory is here in the chat. They've been reading
Ooh.
some Anne Rice. The Witching Hour. I actually really want to read that because I really liked the mini series or the TV series that came out. I need to read the Wolf one too.
I'd like to read some Anne Rice.
We should read some Anne Rice. Why aren't we reading Anne Rice?
Well, isn't it? It's pretty like heavy, isn't it? Like pretty dense.
The trouble I think it's hard is her writing is really, really flowery, which I think is perfect if you're in that really gothic mood.
I do love that kind of thing, but like this book that I'm reading is kind of like that too. Not super flowery, but it's kind of like I'm mudding through it. I want to finish it. I'm not going to quit it, but it's going to take me
I feel like
a year.
Anne Rice and certain authors like that have that very, old traditional gothic style. It's more like it's a meal that you savor, you don't power through it. It's not a beach read. It's it demands your attention.
Yeah. You got to work for it.
Patrick in the chat. I don't know why it's musical now. I'm so sorry. I'm full of the randoms today.
Get it.
So, are you liking Project Hail Mary?
I am. I'm really liking it. Because I couldn't get it on my Kindle. Like I couldn't get it through the library. There was like a 12-week hold for it still. I do have it on my Audible though. But I don't have a lot of opportunity to really listen to audiobooks, and so that's why it's kind of a slow going thing. And then I have the physical book, but I'm reading in bed and I can't read in the dark.
I know that's a hard. I just got some new physical books recently, and those are the hardest. I usually read them right here, but I do most of my reading in bed, which is where the Kindle comes in.
Exactly. So I should probably just buy the Kindle version of it so I can finish it quicker. Because that tends to be the thing that makes me read the fastest, is being able to read it on my Kindle. Brandon read the last.
The volume keeps rising and falling.
Is it because I'm talking like a weirdo?
I can turn it up more. So now I wonder what setting it's on. It has all these different settings.
It's very fancy.
Let's try this one. Maybe it had like a setting that had like noise cancellation or something and it was all crazy.
Or it's haunted.
All right, that's a different setting. So let me know how that works out for you, Brandon. My hair is doing crazy things today.
No, it looks great. Leave it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's what I need to do. I need to change up how I'm reading because I'm not reading anything because I can't get it together. Okay.
That sounds much better.
Excuses, guys.
Good.
So did you read all of the books that we had talked about for the last couple months?
I did. I've read so many books. Though I didn't read the book I was supposed to. The book we had originally planned for this month, I haven't finished.
That was like the only one I really did want to read.
I read next month's book. Okay. So, oh my gosh, I read so many books. So a few things. Like last month I mentioned I was reading a lot of Buffy books, and I'm kind of a completionist. When I start down one of these rabbit holes, I don't really stop until I've completed it. So I've been reading all of the Buffy comics in chronological order. So I read like Buffy the High School Years. Those are, they're fine. If you haven't read them, you're not missing out. I read the omnibuses from Dark Horse, which do get better as you go along. Notably, I think one of the last ones they do, well, it's actually in the first omnibus, but they go back to earlier seasons and show you what it was like with Dawn there, like how they remember it, because they don't remember it the way we remember it. They remember Dawn being there, which I think is really interesting. Cool. And so, yeah, like the first omnibus, it's okay. There's a lot of fluff type ones, but the ones that are good are really, really good. There's one called Haunted that you can also just get the graphic novel of. And it's like the mayor's spirit after season 3 kind of possesses these different creatures. Like there's a crow and stuff, and eventually like a dead vampire and goes after Buffy and visits Faith and stuff. And it's really, really good.
That's fun.
That one was probably my favorite. And then I've also been reading some like Buffy academic books. I read Fighting the Forces, and it's better than 7 seasons of Buffy. It's a little more academic, but they're, it's hit or miss. These are a lot of the academic essays that were published on Slayage, which is like a Buffy academic, place for Buffy academic journals about Buffy are published. So academic articles. So they have all the sources and stuff, but it's about Buffy. So like, it doesn't feel like
a trend.
Yeah. So that one's pretty good. I'm currently reading one about philosophy in Buffy. So it's a lot of like Nietzsche and Plato, and that one's kind of interesting, but I can only read that in short bursts because it gives you a lot to think about. And if you don't take the time to think about it, then it's not really doing you any good.
Yeah. I like that.
What else did I read? I read The Last Unicorn. So a lot of people are reading The Last Unicorn.
It's
a lot of people. You just read it.
I did.
Brandon the Beldam just finished it. My friend Abby just did. And I think it's because that HD edition came out.
Which I bought.
Yes.
Yeah.
How is it? I haven't seen the movie yet.
Well, I mean, I watch the movie all the time. I didn't really, I don't know. It looked great.
Yeah?
Yeah, but it's still the same movie. Like, it's the same movie. But the DVD, having the DVD, the 4K Blu-ray of it, I didn't have a DVD copy of it before. It's beautiful. It's perfect. It's the best story ever told. The greatest story ever told.
Why over, Bible. Why do you like it so much? Like, tell us more. Because I don't think I quite got it. So I need to hear from a massive fan. Like, what is the big appeal?
It hits me different every time I watch it. Like, the unicorn herself, she's so brave. Because she doesn't know what to expect. She doesn't know where the other unicorns are. And she's going out to find out what happened. She's leaving the safety. She's risking her own life. She's risking the life of the creatures in her forest to find out what's going on. And she doesn't have any proof even that the unicorns are gone. She just overhears a conversation. And I just think she's so brave and she does all these things. And in the end, she like goes through this massive change as to who she is, like as a being. I really love the character of Molly Grew. She, unicorns typically come to young maidens, right? Like when you're young and you're beautiful and in your prime. But Molly, like, I was reading this like Twitter thread thing, and like Molly's like 38 in the book. I'm 38. And like later, like you go through so much more and you can appreciate things so much more. And you don't feel as worthy of like a unicorn visit. But to have a unicorn come visit you at this stage in your life, there would be nothing better. Like, who deserves it more?
But then she was so angry that she didn't see it when she was younger, which is weird.
But then she got over it. And they worked it out, and like
they worked it out.
Their bond,
they went to HR,
was way stronger because of it. Like Molly needed the unicorn, and the unicorn needed Molly. Lady Amalthea would not have made it through that situation without Molly Grew.
What about the whole thing with the unicorn and the prince? Like that got weird.
So I did actually save a quote in the book that was like, here, like in order to have a hero, they have to go through some really awful things. Like for him to be the hero he was destined to be, he had to experience the rejection, like the being shut down, like the not getting what you want. Like otherwise he would just have had a big head and been he would have sucked.
Like Gaston.
Yeah, exactly. Like Gaston. Gaston has never experienced
but no one fights like Gaston.
Yes. So I don't know. I wish I had saved more of the quotes in it because that one was really one that struck me. And in the learning how to love, that changes the unicorn too, because most unicorns, like that's not their jam, but she has loved and she has lost. So she learns what regret is, essentially.
I liked that butterfly.
I love the butterfly. He's so
They're reminding me of the worm in Labyrinth.
Kind of, yeah. He picks up what he hears.
Just worm. Come inside. Me commences.
So cute. So I love The Last Unicorn. And I just think it's a really sweet little story. There's no like high politics in it or anything like Game of Thrones. Like it's just a simple, beautiful story.
For me, I will say I'm not a fantasy person. I was when I was younger. I love The Labyrinth is still one of my favorite movies, but I don't know if it would be if I saw it later in life or if it's probably all from nostalgia, but I do love Labyrinth. And I read all the Narnia books and I was really into those when I was a kid. I don't really like high fantasy or high science fiction. I really like things that are relatable. And so I had a hard time with it because for me, the unicorn was completely unrelatable. I liked Molly a bit and I liked Schmendrick. But I really felt like this is something that I would recommend to people who love like Lord of the Rings, that kind of high fantasy stuff where you really want to be transported into another world. And on top of that, it's very much like Lord of the Rings is more, I guess, action oriented and stuff. This is more like fantasy with a lot of fairy tale in it.
It's very fairy tale.
And the way it's written is really beautiful, but it is one of those things where you kind of have to sit down and read it. I listened to the audiobook of this. I don't think I was crazy about the narrator.
Have you seen the movie yet?
No.
You need to watch it.
But I need to do that. I will say I pictured Matt Smith from Doctor Who as Schmendrick.
He could have been great. That would be really great. Doug and I were talking about who we would cast because Christopher Lee does the voice of King Haggard in the cartoon, and he's not alive anymore. I think
what's her butt, Bellatrix, Lestrange.
Oh,
Helena Bonham Carter for
yeah.
Molly.
She would be great. She'd be great. I was thinking Jeff Bridges does the voice of Prince Lear. Like he could do it again.
I guess maybe that one guy everyone likes. What's his name? Timothy Chalamet? Is that how you say his name? He did Wonka.
Timmy Sham Sham.
Yeah, he does the Dune. I think he's kind of in that verse.
He's very handsome.
So I
would
guess
watch it.
For me, I didn't feel like there was enough character stuff really going on, but there wasn't a lot of action either. It's very lyrical. It's very much about the language. And I kind of just wanted more to latch onto with characters and stuff. But again, I am not the intended audience for this. And despite that, I did have a decent time listening to this. It's just, it wasn't like, considering how, I think my favorite part was the intro by Patrick Rothfuss. And he's like, this is my favorite book. I force everyone to read this. So I was like, okay, I'm probably going to love this. And so I didn't love it, but I did like it.
I think for me, because I grew up watching the film, right? Like I know this film forwards and backwards by heart. So I already know the story and I know the characters. But reading the book for me was like just getting a little bit more information about them. I got to see them a little clearer. I got to know them a little bit better, and it was really for me, an adult. It's very introspective. Like it really makes you think about like who you are and like what you've gone through and how you change going through adversity.
So I think I have a different take on it. And my take is that I feel like I relate to Molly Grew in this because Molly Grew is angry that she didn't get to see a unicorn when she was younger. And I think it's because that's when you're young, you're so open to things like unicorns and fairies and mermaids and you don't blink twice because you're like, well, of course, because the world is full of magic. And that's why she was angry she didn't get a unicorn when she was younger, when she could truly embrace and appreciate the beauty of the unicorn, because now she's older and jaded and she's got hurt and pain in her heart. And so I think that's why she's so angry. And I want to say, as somebody who is over 40, I am angry I didn't get this book as when I was younger, because I think young me would have really grasped onto it and appreciated the magic of it a lot more than current me, who it's just like, well, there are no unicorns. There are no wizards. You know, I'm jaded, guys.
I think that's when you need a unicorn the most.
So that's true. That's true.
Because that can soften you. Like the world sucks and it does make you hard, but then a unicorn can walk in and like give you everything you ever needed and totally change your life.
It could be like Pretty Woman and the unicorn's Julia Roberts.
The unicorn, I think, in that case would, well, yeah. Or the unicorn is Richard Gere.
Maybe. He's kind of a jerk.
I don't know.
The unicorn was too. Okay, you know what? Let's not go with my analogies, guys. They are imperfect. They're imperfect analogies.
I love it.
I would recommend it as, I recommend it to people who like high fantasy. I recommend people who like Lord of the Rings. But I do think I would put it on a list of like, if you were going to do like a 100 book challenge, I think it's one that deserves to be on there, especially if you want to round out, like, you know, I want to kind of round myself out a bit more. I read a lot of fantasy. I read a lot of urban fantasy. I read a lot of horror. I read some young adult, but I don't read a lot of high fantasy. So I'm glad I read it. And I think this might be a good way for me to ease into something maybe like Lord of the Rings.
We've been really digging into Lord of the Rings lately. I mean, like it consumes my life, but with the show lately, like
they've been showing those to the cinema too.
Oh my gosh, I know. We were gonna go see the Two Towers this week, but we didn't make it happen.
You gotta bring like a bedpan with you.
Well, I did go see the Return of the King the last time it was in there, but I was by myself. But I put that one on like
Did
nightly.
you bring like a whole meal with you?
I ate a lot
because like that's a long,
I
that's
got,
a long movie.
A wrap and everything. It was really fun though. But I watch those movies all the time. But we decided to start listening to the book. We took a drive the other day and we popped it on, and we've been watching the appendices and just really
appendices, like appendixes plural.
Oh. Yeah, they're in the original movie.
So is it like the human body where you don't really need them?
Yeah, you don't really need them, but you appreciate the movie a whole lot more if you watch them. Yeah. It talks about like how they make the costumes and how they cast the people. It's really fun. We're dorking out on some Tolkien stuff.
Yeah. Welcome, Jorge. He says, "I love the horror book club. My favorite books are Under the Dome and Apocalypsis. Hopefully, I'm saying that by Stephen King. I haven't read those yet, but we're going to talk about some Stephen King.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about
Have you read Under the Dome?
I haven't. Danny has though, and he actually really liked it. And what's interesting about Under the Dome is it's one of the stories that Stephen King started young. We had an idea of like this dome coming up and cutting like a chipmunk in half.
Oh.
And he never really did anything with it until years later when he completed Under the Dome. I'm going to segue into talking about You Like It Darker, which I think is a great title. I love the cover too, which looks kind of like an island with palm trees on it. You can just Google it, guys. I'm not pulling up pictures today, all right? It's a low budget show.
No production here.
It's an alligator. So I read You Like It Darker, which is the short story collection he released this year. Which is cool about Stephen King is he's continually releasing short story collections. This one is largely ones that he wrote for this collection. A lot of times they collect things he's published elsewhere. And I actually think this is the best one he's done in a long time. It made me really sad. I got a little teary-eyed reading his afterward just because it felt kind of like a goodbye He always, constant readers, what he always says at the beginning of his books. And at the end of this, like, I mean, even just the stories, like, it felt like a goodbye, which please don't let it be a goodbye. Please just come home for stuff. But a lot of the stories would end with, thinking about Flannery O'Connor, which that one, he has a story in there that's very much an homage to A Good Man Is Hard to Find, which is classic, great Flannery O'Connor, very tense story. But another one was like thinking of Cormac McCarthy, thinking about Shirley Jackson. And then the afterword was talking about how, he has a sequel in this book to Cujo called Rattlesnakes, and how he really wanted to kind of revisit those characters, and how a lot of these things were things that he'd been thinking about a lot and he wanted to talk about. And he really talked about his career, like from beginning to end, and also like his family and how he's proud of his sons and the things that they've written and stuff. And the afterword was really beautiful. I think he just was kind of like, if I don't get a chance to say goodbye, this is goodbye. But he doesn't say goodbye, but it really kind of like he summarized like his entire career, his entire life, his experiences, his wife, his marriage, everything. And it's just like, wow, like he has told so many stories. He has accomplished so much. What's remarkable about this collection is truly, there is not a bad one in the bunch. It's good. It's got everything. It's got everything. There's one called Red Screen, which is short, sweet, to the point, very Twilight Zone.
Ooh, fun.
And the idea is like, your partner can all of a sudden become like a major like nag and really be on your case or something. And it's not really them. And there's like these aliens who come in. The only way we've been able to warn people or give like a notification is like you get this red screen on your phone. So if you don't see it, you may not know that you have one in your house. It's kind of like V, they're everywhere. Ooh. There was another one that reminded me of a Richard Matheson short story where this guy is talking about how he was been in AA and he's trying to get clean. And he starts talking to this guy, like, can I just talk to you? And the guy just kind of gets sucked into the conversation. And you find out that it's not AA from alcohol. He's recovering from a different addiction. And this man is very much in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Ooh.
Not good.
Yikes.
Rattlesnakes was good. It's a continuation. Well, it's a sequel to Cujo. So it does let you know what happened to Donna Trenton. And obviously Cujo, the book ends differently than the movie. They lost their son in the book.
I've never seen the movie or
read the book. Gosh. Truly, I think the best acting in any Stephen King adaptation, including Shawshank Redemption, I think is Cujo. I
always forget that one is
G. Wallace is phenomenal in it. So good. It's so good. It's so good.
Love it.
And he actually says the movie's better than the book. So I think they're both fantastic. But it talks about that, and he goes to the Florida coast, and there's a lot of rattlesnakes there. It's an odd story for a Cujo sequel, because he meets this woman who pushes around an empty pram, and she has clothes laid out in it for twins. And you find out her twins were killed by rattlesnakes when they were like toddlers, and that was many, many years ago. She hasn't quite gotten over it, and she does even tell him at one point, I know they're not there, but they are. And you find out the pram moves around on its own, and the spirits of these children were haunting her, and then she dies in an accident, and then they start haunting him. But in doing this, he is able to confront, like, what he believes about the afterlife and where his wife is and where his son is. Like, his wife says that she saw their son as an adult before she died. And he wants to believe that, but he doesn't know if he does. So this whole thing is kind of helping him to accept the deaths of his loved ones. Yeah. And accept that, he's going to die soon. So it's really very literary and beautiful, but it's also creepy. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a really long story, which is very interesting, about a man who is a custodian. And he has a nightmare where he finds the dead body of a young girl. And then he finds out that the place he saw in his dream is real. And he's like, great. He drives out there and he finds the body, and she's getting eaten by pests. So he covers it and then he phones it in. But eventually they find out it's him. And this detective is just really adamant that this guy did the murder. And he didn't. He gets sucked into this kind of cat and mouse game with this really crazy detective. But it's really good. It's a really good story. Honestly, there's not a bad one in the bunch. I highly, highly recommend it. It is long. It's like 600 pages, but I read the whole book out loud to Danny because he likes bedtime stories. Don't judge. The only thing I judge Danny for is that he wants me to read them. I'm like, there are professional audiobook people who do great voices. He says what they don't offer that I do is my little interjections. Or
this bit.
I do. I'm like, oh god, that was stupid. Or ooh, that's interesting. That's saucy. I don't know. I make all
You're
sorts of interjections.
professional.
Like, no.
Yeah. I should read more Stephen King. I used to read a lot when I was in high school, and I have a book of his short stories. I don't remember what it's called. It's got like flowers on the cover.
It sounds like Everything's Eventual.
Yep, that's the one. And I have
that one's got 1408 in it, if I remember correctly.
Oh, does it? Okay. I have all the Dark Tower books. I read the first one, didn't understand it. I like had no idea what was going on, so I need to reread it. But I've read Pet Cemetery. I
love that one.
The Shining. I started
to read more.
To read Insomniac.
Oh, that one! You could kill a man with that book.
I had to stop reading it. It was literally driving me insane. I was like, I'm not sleeping. Like, it was so weird. I had to stop reading that one like a quarter of the way through. But yeah,
one I recommend that I'm surprised it hasn't been adapted. That's really, really good. Is Rose Matter? It's about a woman who is fleeing from her abusive husband, and it's got some cool tie-ins to Greek mythology and stuff. It's really, really good and really underrated. We got Jason, the nice one, in the chat. He says, good evening. Just want to drop by and say hi. And I love you too. And he's sending his best wishes. And to my husband too. Danny, that is also to you if you watch. And then to Kayla. So I highly recommend that. I think maybe if you're in a reading rut, you can do that. You could just pick up, read one of the stories. The shortest ones are like only a couple minutes to read. The longest one's like over an hour.
Maybe I'll do that.
But they're all really good.
Yeah.
There wasn't a dud in the bunch.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that collection.
Okay. Well, cool. I love it.
We love Stephen King.
And I mean, I love Fairy Tale.
Oh, Fairy Tale was so good.
It was so good.
And see, I think if you love Fairy Tale, this is another one because I feel like there's a couple pretty scary stories in this, but there's a lot of stories in this that I feel like there's one story that it's not horror at all. It's the man who has adopted a dog. And honestly, if you love Fairy Tale, you need to read it. But it's just basically about how the dog has helped him heal from like a life of loss and stuff, and how the dog, But yeah, like there's a lot of stuff in here that's just good literature. It's just good for your soul.
Yeah, I love it.
So yeah, Brandon says he would like me to read. I have thought about that. I want to launch Strange and Unusual Book Club as its own thing. And I thought one of the things I could do is just read books on there the way I read books, with really bad voices, with horrible accents, and lots of interjections. But I don't know. Because sometimes if I don't like the book, I say mean stuff. And I don't want to upset anybody.
You're honest. Nobody can fault you for that.
The author of the book could.
Oh, did you hear that there's a Clown in a Cornfield 3?
I did hear that.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it at all, but he was live on TikTok.
I'm kind of like a completionist, so I might read it, but I loved the first one. I really hated the second one.
Yeah, same.
Where do you begin with Castle Rock? I mean, honestly, you can go in at any point, because I don't think there are very few books in Stephen King's Castle Rock books that I think are contingent upon you reading another one. Though if you want one that just really explores the town of Castle Rock in the way that like it explores Derry, I would say Needful Things.
Needful Things. I think I have that one on my Kindle.
Needful Things is, I mean, it's one of those be careful what you wish for stories where a shop owner comes in and you go in there and you find just the thing that you thought you wanted, but it comes with a price.
What would your thing be?
My thing?
I know exactly what mine would be.
What is it?
The Perfect Planner. The Perfect Planner. I would walk in and I'd be like, this is the one. This is the one that's going to solve all my problems.
Me, it would be like a typewriter or something that just like made me like get to work. So a lot of times I overthink everything that I'm writing. And if I like, it'd be like a typewriter where I just get focused.
Yeah. But then you type so much your fingers fall off. Right? Is that right? Okay.
Hey, Dominic. Welcome. We got Danny
Fraggle Rock.
Where's Fraggle Rock?
He said it began with Fraggle Rock.
Remember the Trash Monster?
Yeah, Trash.
Whenever I watch that now, I hear Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm the Trash Man.
She's actually like a really wise creature.
I know. Fraggle Rock was deeper than people gave it credit for.
I freaking love Fraggle Rock.
My brother's nickname when we were kids, Dusty's nickname was Doozer because he was always building stuff. We off by Dozer.
That's so cute.
You want to talk about another book?
Yeah. So, okay. So
So you got things to talk about.
Well, I guess a couple. Did you read the How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive by Craig DeLuey?
So that one I'm listening to right now. Okay. I do love, you know, I sometimes you guys ask me in the chat here what modern authors I really like. You know, and there's obviously people like Stephen King where it's like he's modern and he's classic. He's incredible. That's why we love Stephen. But my favorite modern author is Grady Hendrix. I really love that Brandon has gotten into the Brady, which, by the way, I will tell you this now. You can order. I didn't do this with How to Sell a Haunted House, which is my favorite Grady Hendrix book, but you cannot go wrong. But you can pre-order Witchcraft for Wayward Girls on Barnes and Noble, signed by him for like only $35.
Oh, that's not bad.
So I'm gonna do that.
I think about the Southern Book Club's Guide to Vampire Slaying. I think about that book all the time.
It was so good.
It was so heavy. And
it was heavy. Like at first, that kind of put me off it a bit because I wasn't prepared. But then I was like, no, like
for months after we finished it, everybody was a predator. I was like, every single one of these people is a child killer or something. Like I was just on high alert for months after we finished it.
And that's good horror.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I cannot wait for Wayward Girls comes out in January. We have to read that. We'll read that. You're in a slot. I don't even care.
I'll do it. I was honestly, when I was reading on my Kindle, when I was able to get the books from the library, I was reading so much more. But now, like, my money's tight, so I haven't been buying any books. But I just need to carve out a budget for Kindle books because I read so much more when I can read them on my Kindle.
And I think you can share books that you've bought on Kindle. So I have a bunch of books.
That would be great. Because, yeah, I read so much more when it's on my Kindle. I just need to prioritize it.
Danny mentioned that tomorrow is Friday the 13th. And I heard from a little bat that there might be an epic Horror Addicts video tomorrow starring the incomparable Danny Nightmare.
Ooh.
So, he sold the VCR today.
Nice. Love it.
Yep.
Get him out the door.
Earning that employee of the month you got.
Right? He's a hard worker. Love it.
So do you want to hear about Night Bitch?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on your face. You're like,
yeah, you go. Are they making a movie out of that?
Yes, it comes out in December.
Great. Okay. Tell me.
Movie coming out in December starring Amy Adams, who can do no wrong. I mean, Amy Adams, not only was she on Buffy, but she was on Charmed, and she was on Smallville. So she's done the whole teen, trilogy there. Yeah. Didn't do Charmed though. Wait, no. She did do Charmed. I just watched the episode. Plus, she's done incredible movies like The Arrival, and she did Sharp Objects, that miniseries. So we love her. She's incredibly talented.
She was in The Office.
So yes, Night Bitch is it's different. So I was really attracted to the premise, but I will say this is more literary feminist literature, and it's more magical realism than it is horror. I think if you know that going into it, you will be prepared to take this book in fully. The book is written in the style of almost like I'm telling you a story. So it's like, well, the Night Bitch did this and this, and it's very much kind of like that. So the story is interesting. But it does, what's weird about it is it feels very distant from the character, which I guess is good because we're getting enough distance from her that we can kind of observe her. And she goes on a very interesting arc. So she basically tells you first chapter, I turn into a dog at night, and I refer to this as Night Bitch. Night Bitch is who I become at night when I turn into a dog. She doesn't turn into a wolf. She turns into just a dog.
What kind of a dog?
We don't really fully know.
That's important.
But so she believes that, though there's not a lot of witnesses to it. I like that the trailer shows her like running with all these dogs and stuff. So the other thing I had a hard time with was I was like, well, is she crazy? Can we rely on this story? And it is actually happening. So you should know that too. Because a lot of the book, I was just like, well, what's going on here? Yeah. No,
so you have to get there with her.
But it's not just turning into a full dog. Like she is becoming more dog-like. So we'll talk about some things she does, but basically she was an artist, and she's kind of put all that stuff aside because now she has a child and she has a toddler, and her husband is gone for like weeks at a time. So it's just her and the toddler, and she just is really lamenting how she used to be this creative person who did all these things and had all these important things to say, and now she's reduced to baby talk with her toddler. Her most exciting, conversations are about like Paw Patrol and stuff. And so she's, as an intellectual and as a woman, she loves her kid fiercely, but and she also, like, you know, it talks a lot about like things people go through. Like there's a lot of guilt where if you're gone, then you feel guilty for not being there for your kid. But then if you spend all your time with your kid, you feel like you're maybe not being true to yourself or you're missing out on something. And she compares herself to these other mothers that she sees at story time at the library, where they seem to have it together and they're super organized, and she just can't ever get this stuff together. And finally what clicks for her with her and her kid is her kid fucking loves that she's basically turning into a dog. And her husband isn't there to like say this isn't happening. Right. So she starts eating raw meat, and he's like, we're playing puppy. Eat raw meat too. And so like they get really dirty and they run around the floor, and
that's actually sounds really fun.
She'll like lick him clean. She has a really hard time in public, like telling herself not to lick him clean. But you know, she basically becomes like a dog. And in a way, like it's kind of changed how I view being feminine and being a mom. Because for her, being a woman becomes about connecting to this primal thing, this part of you that creates life, this part of you that's connected to the earth, this part of you that came from a woman.
Have you ever, this is kind of not in the same vein, but there's this book called Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Have you ever read that? It's like a self-help kind of a book, but it's really about like finding your inner wild woman.
And I kind of relating to this a bit hard because I recently had a bunch of eczema problems. It started in my armpit and still dealing with it to a bit, but essentially I had to put a lot of Vaseline in a lot of places we ain't talking about, and I had to stop shaving. But at first I was kind of like, oh, but now I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm like a furry monster.
Don't shave it.
I have fur legs, now I have fur armpit, and I kind of feel like I'm like this wild, like wolf.
I love it.
I'm kind of feeling it. Like it might be a thing these days. Like I kind of love it.
We were watching The Lord of the Rings, and I was like, I really want to be a hobbit. And Doug's like, well, you are a hobbit. I was like, but don't tell Bilbo that I shaved my toes.
Yeah, I need to shave my toes too. And now I'm just kind of like, what? You know? Yeah. And she becomes more feral as the book goes on. Like her hair she has curly hair, so it gets really, really big. And she wears like just crazy fur like jackets and stuff. And she stops shaving. She doesn't tweeze her eyebrows and stuff anymore. She just and then like one of the girls at the library thing, she's like, I like it. It's so bohemian. But yeah, I mean, what really sells it is she feels confident. Like and I think in a way it brings in some of that creativity and that artistry that she felt like she was lacking, kind of like discovering this part of herself. Yeah. And so she's trying to kind of balance this part of herself that's her and that's an artist with being a mother. And yeah, I think my only issue with it, and I saw a lot of GOODREADS users said this, the ending was a little like, like I wanted a little bit more from the ending, or maybe even a little less. There's a scene that kind of wraps up all the relationships, and it could have ended there. But I don't know, it might be good. It might be good when we see the movie, see how it goes. I do think the movie is going to make it a little easier to connect with her and stuff, because there's a lot of distance between you and the main character when you're reading the book. Yeah. But I will say, like, initially I was like not really sure how I felt about it, but it's when I thought about a lot. Yeah. It really does stick with you, and
it looks good.
Yeah,
I thought the movie looked good, and when I saw the like part of the trailer, I thought that you had been reading it, and I was like, oh, that looks really interesting. I want to read that one. Love it.
But yeah, it's definitely not horror. The only thing horrific about it, so I guess trigger warnings. There's a lot of animal violence in it, because I mean she kills bunnies and stuff because she's a dog. Yeah. So if you cannot handle like a cat is killed, there's rabbits that get killed. Oh God. Okay, the cat scene. That seems really funny.
Is it?
So she has a pet cat that she fucking hates. And let's just say the cat dies in a really horrific way. Okay. But she is never meant to be a character that we're afraid of. She never like attacks people. She does have these big outbursts. Like one time she blows up at like a diner thing where people are looking at her and stuff. And she just like grabs someone's burger and like takes a bite of it and puts it down and just like,
okay.
I don't know, dude. She's crazy.
Okay.
But I love it. The cat situation, basically, I don't know. You just have to read it. I'm just going to tease you. Like, okay, if you're curious, there you go. And if you're like, oh, I don't want to hear about horrible things happening to a cat, then don't read it. It's either a tease or a warning. You do with it what you will.
So you also did read A Mask of Flies, which was supposed to be our August book that we would have been talking about right now.
I changed that all around.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well, whatever. Nobody reads the books.
He's having a dream.
Oh, Pams. Hey, Zombie Toon. What's up? That's my buddy. I haven't talked to him in forever.
Woohoo. So tell me about A Mask of Flies. Did you like it? Did you not like it?
I really hated it.
Okay, well then great. Let's not talk about it.
I hated it. I have not read Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison, but I saw that you read it, and I do really want to read it. And I want to read some more Rachel Harrison. And she just came out with another one that I think is a vampire book. I need to read Rachel Harrison. So Mask of Flight starts off really good. Like I was telling Danny about it. I'm like, oh, you got to check this out, especially if you're an Evil Dead fan. So you start off with this woman who she survived a car accident with her mom that killed her mom when she was a kid. And now as an adult, she has robbed a bank and she's trying to get to their getaway driver. The getaway driver isn't there. She loops around to the guy who set it up's car. She finds him. He is wounded. And he's there with a couple cops. She takes one of the cops with her in a trunk, and then she goes out to this cabin in the woods that she grew up in. I just summed up a whole bunch of it. Okay. But there's a creepy, demonic type presence in the cabin in the woods. Okay. So she's got her friend who's got a bullet wound. She's got this cop that she's got chained to a bed. And then meanwhile, there's a creepy thing out there. So that at that point, I was pretty much into it. Though it was really you got shot in the stomach, and she just puts like a sweater on it and tells him to hold it. I'm like, that man died. Yeah. That man died of sepsis. He went septic. Like stomach wounds are really, really dangerous, and they don't just wait until you can go someplace like a CVS and get some hydrogen peroxide and sew it up. No, that's not that man died. Problem. That honestly is one of the biggest problems with the book. The human body is just, it's like the guy just, people will go through so many injuries and you're just like, that person is now either in shock or they are dead. That person is dead. So it's really hard to be invested or to be afraid for the characters, because then there are other times where then characters just die and you're just like, well, they're going to either live or die to the plot. It doesn't make any damn sense. A cult aspect is introduced, and that is so boring. It's so very much like no thought was put into it. They just they're like, oh, you remember Jonestown? Yeah.
That sucks.
It's just
because I love a good cult.
It's not creative though at all. I've read some good creative cult books. I'm not against cult books. Yeah. An interesting cult is good. This one, it's just, it has no personality. And I think cult leaders, are fascinating because they're really damaged people who tend to be very charismatic. In fact, I have a friend who his dad was a cult leader, which is really interesting. And even he was like this really popular guy in school. And I was like, they have this charisma, and like my friend inherited that charisma. Yeah. This guy, God, no. Like even she's just like, talking in her internal monologue is like what a loser he is. Yeah. And she is so uninteresting. Like I can tell the author at the end of it said that he was listening to all this badass music, and I'm like, I can see that you are pumped up. And he does keep telling us that she's a badass with a heart of gold, but he doesn't show us that. Like she's a badass with a heart of gold. So she puts a man in her trunk for like a day. That would be terrifying. Yeah. Then she chains him up. And then all of a sudden, because he can tell she's good, he's her friend, and he goes out of his way and puts his life at risk for her. Yeah. And I'm like,
that's one of those show don't tell things.
I'm not buying it. You need to give me a good reason why he likes her. Another person puts their entire livelihood at risk because they break into her business. She's a vet. And she gets there because the alarms went off, and she risks everything to help them and sew them up and uses her supplies and everything because the woman has a pet cat. Therefore, she must not be the monster that the news is telling her she is.
Monsters have cats too.
I'm not buying it, sweetheart. I am not buying it. People sacrifice, 2 people sacrificed their lives for her, and she didn't earn it. She's not likable. She's not caring. She's very stupid. She will do, like at one point she cuts herself to attract this demon, but the demon ends up killing a good 50 some odd people, and she barely gets away. It's like, and she knew that was going to happen because she didn't want to be sacrificed to it. Yeah. So she got a lot of other people killed. She does this a lot. This is just one example, but this is Mask of Flies. She is careless. She is unlikable. She's uncharismatic. She apparently can't die. John McClane is like bullshit. But yeah, I'm reading this book, and like if I was reading it to you, I'd be going the whole time. I verbally out loud I was going bullshit, bullshit, bullshit artist, cat shit, dog shit, tiger shit, penguin shit, king penguin shit. I was so upset. I was so upset reading this, and it made me mad because it's actually a cool premise, but it's also just the writing style. Like I could tell that the author spent a lot of time overwriting their first chapter. Like I almost put it down then. Because his metaphors are awful. A really good metaphor should help you see something that maybe you wouldn't see otherwise. But these are clunky metaphors. These are really clunky where you're just like, that's a weird way to say that.
Is this a debut novel?
No, he has other stuff.
And have you read anything else by him?
No. It gets better after that first chapter, but still, it's still pretty clunky. And the other thing too is just plot and structure. There's like 3 different endings to this book. It's like the first ending is about halfway through, and you're like, what the fuck? That was a climax.
Yeah.
Then we have another one. Then we have another one.
Yeah.
But then he has another character who she suddenly gets a point of view chapter. We're like 5 from the end, and it's giving us all this backstory on her. I'm like, honey, no. That's a first act type thing. I don't need to know about this whole new character's backstory right now. Like, take it home, guys. Like, wrap it up. So like, it just was very much like, it was frustrating, and I honestly feel like his editors really failed him.
Yeah, bummer.
No offense to the author. I do think this person was passionate about their story, but it really needed a lot of work. And I was not a fan.
Well, there you go.
But some people do like it, so what do I know?
Are you gonna the next book? I don't know. I haven't looked at what you changed it to, but one of the books on our list was A Sorceress Comes to Call.
I just changed it to How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive.
Oh, okay. I see.
So, I haven't. How to Make a Horror Movie Survive, and then I added the other book I'm reading this month. I think I'm just going to put books up there.
Yeah, go for it. You can do whatever you want.
And then at the beginning of the month of what I'm reading.
Yeah. I was just looking at the list that we had originally.
People can either read it or not, because we only had one other book left.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, guys.
So it's not worth a buy. I wouldn't check it out from the library either. I think it's a waste of your time. That's my thought. I gave it 1 star. And I very rarely do that. But like I said, a lot of people really like it. So this sounds like your cup of tea. And things like structure of a novel isn't going to upset you. Now, I'm writing a novel, so I read a lot of books about structure. So this really pissed me off, but it might not piss you off. So you might be like, hey, this is a little different. Where's this going?
Your bar might not be as high as Gory's.
Maybe.
She has a really high bar. And you should. I'm not disparaging you in any way. You should have a high bar. I like everything. I like too many things. Like, it doesn't take much to impress me.
I will say on the flippity flop side, and again, take this again as one of my favorite books is Twilight. I fucking love that book. I read that book in like an hour. That shit was great. It was a good time.
I could not.
Well, there you go.
I read the first one. I tried so hard to read the second one, and I couldn't get past like the first 2 pages. I was like, why am I doing this to myself? It was garbage. Exactly.
So, like, if I think that's one of my favorite books, then, take my opinion with a grain of salt, all right? I like Twilight. So I like me what is considered by a lot of people to be garbage.
A lot of the women in my life that I respect the most love Twilight. So
I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I don't think Bella is like a good role model or anything, but I think that book captures what it's like to be 16 and falling in love for the first time. Yeah. And it has some fun magical realism, and it's set where I live. So I enjoyed it.
I think I agree with that. Like, I remember being 16 and falling in love like every other day, and every time you fall in love, it's the biggest thing in the world.
But especially when you're young and it's your first one, like, you think that's the end of the world if they leave.
You've never had this feeling before. You're never gonna have it again. Like,
that book captures that. Like, honestly, Juliet wasn't a great role model either.
No.
Same kind of thing. So it's that kind of really young. Like, I think it does a good job of putting you in the place of somebody who's very, very young.
Yeah.
Plus, they had like magic introduced to them. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I get it. I totally get it. Okay.
Yeah.
You read that other book,
Cutting Teeth. Now that one was, I think, my favorite one I read this last month. So Cutting Teeth was rad, dude.
Let's hear about it.
All right, here we go.
Are you? It is really hot in here. I really miss our fan.
I miss our fan too. I'm gonna open this window.
That little guy was our buddy. I'm sweating.
Me too, like to the oldies, dude. Oh, hey, there's Susan from accounting, my praying mantis.
Oh, hi, Susan.
She's got two. Oh. Bless
have
her heart. This is Susan from accounting. My praying mantis. I feel like a little kid, like, look at my praying mantis. She's showing down.
That's Susan from accounting, and this is Kayla from accounting.
Yes.
We bond over payroll taxes.
Yes. Oh, she loves herself a spreadsheet. Is what she loves.
Okay.
Cutting that feels better. I don't know if you can feel it.
I can
over
a
there.
little bit. I can feel
You're
it.
also wearing a sweater.
I am. It's my Lord of the Rings
Oh,
Riders
nice.
of Rohan sweater. Yeah, because it's all I think about all the
You
time.
know who has our fan? Danny does.
Huh?
Danny has our fan.
Why?
I don't know. We should get it back.
Yeah.
We're gonna get it back.
Beat
for the
'em
next
up.
stream. All right, so I'm gonna talk to you guys about Cutting Teeth. This one is by Chandler Baker, who is another one of my favorite modern authors. She's incredible. I love her. I also know she's getting some movie adaptations coming out, and that to me says that producers are thinking this person's talented, because more than one. So one of the ones she's getting, so just talking about her work overall, is called Big Bad, which that's a great way to get yourself introduced to Chandler Baker. That book was released as a short story. It was released for free last year on Amazon.
I actually think I have that one.
Yeah. So good. It's a very different kind of werewolf story. Really, really good. That one's getting a film adaptation from the same guy who did like Happy Death Day.
Oh, I liked that movie.
And he did
Did you like that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that one I think is going to be really good. And her book, The Husbands, which I have not read, but I want to read, is getting a film adaptation starring Kristen Wiig. And The Husbands is basically the Stepford Wives with husbands.
That sounds fun.
We love that.
Yeah.
I love Stepford Wives, the book and the movie, the original movie.
Nothing to
Why am I petting myself?
Why are you petting yourself? Oh, thank you.
Only a fan. You have to plug it in though.
It's fine. He knew I was gonna come beat him up.
Here, talk to the camera.
Okay. So camera. Oh, he doesn't need it. Oh, I see. Message. I should read some of her stuff because I do have that Big Bad one on my Kindle.
Oh, do it. Plug it in.
Good job.
Oh my god.
Do it.
Oh,
It's so hot in here.
I don't even care if it looks bad in our background.
I don't
It's
either.
so hot in here. It's just because we got like hot ladies in here.
Deal with it. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Dan Ram's a fan.
He's a fan. And he brought us a fan.
Only
That's
fan.
So nice. No, stop it.
It's okay.
Okay, so
Look at that poor dog.
tell us about Cutting Teeth.
So, yeah, so she's got The Husband's coming out, and then Cutting Teeth was one, I guess, that didn't get as high ratings as some of the other ones on Goodreads. But I really liked it. Again, I feel like it's a lot like Night Bitch, where you need to know what you're getting, because a lot of the negative reviews were like, I wanted vampire kids. And I'm sorry.
I like my voice.
I just sound like Jennifer
I
Coolidge.
loved it.
But and that you do get a little of that, but not really. If you want vampire kids, read Craig DeLuise' Suffer the Children. That this isn't even really a horror per se. What I didn't realize it was gonna be, because I thought it was pretty cut and dry. You find in the very first chapter a teacher at a private preschool has been killed. And the book's called Cutting Teeth, and it says there's going to be vampire kids in it. So I'm like, all right, they just teamed up on her, Children of the Corn style, and so I didn't really expect that. No, it's a murder mystery, and it's actually pretty interesting because at first when I realized it was a murder mystery, I'm like, well, it's kind of cut and dry, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
no, it's not.
It's not. So you're what I like about this is it explores motherhood from 3 different women. So we have one, and I'm drawing a blank on names right now, but one of the mothers is kind of hippie-ish. She's the single mom. Her kid is at this very elite private school on a scholarship. You want more fans?
I do want more fans. There we go. Thank you. Sorry, everybody.
She's there on a scholarship, and she doesn't really let the kid's dad get involved. Like, basically, she was a nanny for this guy, and they had an affair, and now she has a kid, and she wants to do it all herself. And she's very much like, her way is right, nothing else is, and she wants to have an essential oils business. And the book kind of opens with the teacher saying, hey, your kid's really underweight. Maybe being vegan is not very good, because a lot of people comment on how this kid's super skinny. He's all like skin and bones. But on the other hand, like, it also tells the backstory of how she nearly lost him when he was born. So, I mean, she really does feel like she's doing what's best for her kid, and she would never want anything bad to happen for him. His name's Bodhi. I remember that. But like, none of the parents in this are perfect. Nobody's perfect. They are all flawed. So that's where I think she's a little flawed. She's got a little bit of this chip on her shoulder, you know, that, you know, even though she's got tattoos, even though she's kind of, you know, a single mom, she doesn't have a lot of money, like, she can do it, you know, and to a degree she's right. But there are some things where you're like, the book is telling you, she could stand to get some help and listen to other people. And that's a big plot point when the teacher basically says, I'm going to talk to the kid's dad about his weight. And the teacher means well. So then you find out that, you know, what it's really going on here is it's saying, okay, did she have something to do with it? Which I didn't realize at first. So it gets kind of interesting. So our next mom is very Christian. This is a Christian academy, though. There's not a lot of Christian stuff in the book. There's not an agenda here. So whether you're Christian or not, I don't think there's anything that's going to offend you if you are Christian.
I just think most private schools are like religion-based, too.
I think if you're Christian, there's nothing that's going to offend you. And if you're not Christian, you're not going to feel like you're being preached at or converted. So you're fine. But only one of the moms is Christian. She's very Christian. She's very one of those moms who brings like cookies to the teacher. And, you know, when people get, you know, injured and stuff throughout the book, she sends a gift basket over. Like, she's on top of everything. She has her daughter's like whole like outfits and stuff picked out. And she's very proud of herself because her daughter is very polite. Like, she looks down on another mom. Like, she looks down on that one mom because I think her name was Rita, because Bodhi's so skinny. And another mom, her kid is a terror. But her kid is so polite. And so she's very like, she does a lot for people, but she's also very proud. And she, at her church, there's a very young pastor, and she is attracted to him for starters, which is kind of a problem. And she recognizes that. But she also gets really stuck on these things. Like, he has a whole 30-day sexy back challenge, which they need to have sex every day to improve their marriage. And she's not doing it for the right reasons to spice up her marriage. She's doing it because she was told to do it. And she's going to finish the challenge, damn it. And even when it causes problems with her husband. And so she's very rigid. So on the one hand, she gets a lot done, but she's also a lot. But she's also very sweet and stuff too. So then the other mom, who really like, I relate to the third mom. I'll tell you that right now. I am third mom, who is a total train wreck.
You're not a train wreck.
That's how the third mom, she has two daughters. Or no, she has a daughter and she has a baby. And her daughter is a lot. Her daughter throws tantrums. Her daughter can be really mean. Her daughter has all these, you know, behavior problems. And the other moms look down on her. And she never knows the right thing to do. Her house is always a mess. She's late for everything. She will just,
your house is clean.
She picks up her kids and she's like, what happened to your shoes? Where did your shoes go? I remember one time my mom scolded me. She's like, Caden doesn't have any shoes. He says he doesn't have any. And I'm like, where did the shoes go? And I, to this day, don't know what happened to the shoes. But, like, that's me. Like, I probably misplaced them or something or whatever. But I just never could get it together. And she actually, everyone thinks her husband's kind of weird. Her husband's is really shady. And so that's another thing. Like, he's kind of shady. Did he have something going on with the teacher? Is he did have reason against the teacher? She loves her husband. She's very proud that her husband's very good looking. But a lot of the other moms really don't really like him. They think he's creepy. So, and then the teacher's kind of shady. So, yeah, I don't think this book was marketed well. This is a murder mystery. And I thought it was cut and dry that the kids did it. But I'm not going to tell you whether the kids did it or not. Because then, like, there's the kids, too. Like, you know, they're sus, too. They were left alone with her. But she also had a lot of things going on. And so it's very interesting. And I think what you really want out of this book is, I think, the way it explores motherhood from three different people. I think no matter if you're a father or a mother, I think there are parents in this that you are going to relate to. And, you know, like, there's they're very, very different. So whether it's something like you're like, oh, I wish I was more like that, then you can see from that person's point of view that even they are struggling.
Yeah, where they struggle, where their downfalls are, and finding a balance.
Yeah, I think they're all very relatable. They're all very real people, and all of them are deeply flawed. Nobody is perfect here. Like, the one I relate to, one thing I don't relate to her on is she's always on her phone. And I never know where my phone is.
You're never on your phone.
Because I'm a bigger train wreck than her. I don't know where my phone is half the time, but she's always on her phone. But then she also is really happy that, she has so many like videos and things of her kid and stuff. So this book really doesn't preach to you like this is the way to parent. Like, I feel like Chandler Baker is saying, these are the things that have frustrated me as a parent. And here are some little nuggets I've learned, but I don't know what I'm doing either. And I feel like that's what she's basically trying to say. She's like, I'm still figuring this out too. And here are some things I'm figuring out. But and Night Bitch was the same way. I feel like Night Bitch isn't telling you like this is the right way to parent. It's just saying it's really, really hard. And none of us, I don't think anyone who's a good parent wakes up and says, I'm awesome at being a parent. I think if you actually care about your kids every single day, you wonder if you could be doing it better.
Well, they're totally different people. Like, they're their own people, and you don't know what experiences that they're going to have outside of you. And all you can do is really do your best and try to prepare them for whatever might come their way, and then be there for them. Right?
I also like how, like, they reflect on themselves, like how their kids are a lot. Like, I think unless you have a lot of kids and you can see that you can parent them, they're all the same and they're still going to be their own people. Like the one who's got a kid who's very, very polite.
Yeah.
She really like takes a lot of pride in that. Whereas the one who has the one that's a total monster, like I kind of understood that because my son could be difficult for a lot of teachers. And so like she's really sad about the teacher dying because that teacher really loved her daughter. Like she saw her. So like I was like, oh, that's something I relate to, and but she also feels like really guilty. Like, is it her fault that her kid is like that?
Yeah.
And her kid just has a lot of personality. I don't think her kid's a brat.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really, really good. It is less horror and more kind of this exploration of motherhood / a murder mystery. So
love it.
I thought it was fantastic. I highly recommend it. I'm going to be reading more Chandler Baker for sure. I did get The Whisper Network, which is also by her, and I got The Husbands. So the 2 books I've read of her, everything. I've read 2 books of hers. I read Big Bad and I've read Cutting Teeth. And the fact that she named her book Big Bad, I'm like, Chandler,
that's cute.
You like Buffy, don't you?
Oh yeah, right?
What's up, girl?
She's a Buffy fan. Love it.
So I feel like her and I need to get like lunch, even though she's famous and doesn't know who I am. I just feel like it's one of those books where you read it and you feel like you're friends with the author.
You're kind of famous in your own right, so I bet you guys could end up having lunch.
I appreciate that you think that.
I do think that.
So, oh my God, guys, that was a lot. That was a lot of books.
That was a lot of books. You're a reading reader, and I'm a slacker. Sorry, everybody.
Oh yeah, Danny's right. Susan does pray a lot, very religious, and she does hiss at you. I try to tongue feed her. When you put food in the tongs to give it to her, and she don't like that. She hissed at me and made me sad.
How rude.
And our friendly neighborhood transgender vampire, Annie, what's up? Nice to see you, girl. Have we seen the Bad Mom movies? I have seen the Bad Mom movies. I have.
Are they good?
They're enjoyable.
Yeah.
I always feel bad for Kristen Stewart's, or not Kristen Stewart. What's the other Kristen Stewart? Not Kristen Stewart from Twilight. Not Kristen Wiig. She's the one from Veronica Mars. Kirsten Bell. Kirsten Bell.
I was going to go with Kirsten Dunst. It was going to be my next.
She talks about her husband's erectile dysfunction difficulties. Like that, for some reason, is the thing that sticks in my head, and I think about all the time.
Yeah, Kristen Bell.
But she was Anna, so we love that. What we were going to do is recommend new books to each other, but you didn't finish the last book I recommended to you.
I didn't. I know.
So here's what I'm going to do. We're a lot more loosey-goosey with this. I also remember...
I'll get it back.
Remember how I said I was going to start a new channel and stuff? Stay tuned for that. I am actually going to do that. You guys, here's one of the things. Don't be like me. Because one, I go down these rabbit holes and I feel like I have to complete everything. So I have this series of Buffy videos I want to do, but I'm reading all these books. Don't get into a research thing. Like, I need to pull myself out of that and actually do the things. I just like researching a lot. But I put down 2 books that you could read along with me. maybe Kayla will read them. Who knows? She has a very busy life. She's very important.
We don't know about that. I mean,
she's in accounting.
I'm an accountant, you guys. I will do better. I will do better.
I'm not mad.
I will do better.
Thank you. I was so proud of us because we read all these books. Here, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna add a book for you, but it's less than 200 pages.
Okay, great.
So I'm reading The Lost Girls right now. I think you should read it.
Okay.
So add that with Project Hail Mary. It's very, very short, and yeah, I have it on my Kindle. I think you can lend books out to people for like 2 weeks at a time.
Okay, that'd be great. Because I mean, I've been reading this book. You can see I have not gotten
long.
It is. It's long. This is going to take me a year. And then you know what? There's 26 more books.
Why would you do that?
I told you I was in this like zone of like 1970s fantasy. That was all I wanted, was weird 70s fantasy, and this is a weird 70s fantasy.
Is it making you happy?
Yeah, I wish I could read more than a page at a time, but I just get so tired by the end of the night, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, it's heavy, it's deep. So I just can't read more than a couple pages at a time. But I'll finish it by 2026.
So if you want to read anything along with me, you can look at my Goodreads. Okay. I'm actually reading a lot of books at once.
I'll read that one.
But I'm going to recommend 2 books I put them on for Strange and Unusual Book Club. These are the ones I would like you guys to read along with me if you can. So one, Craig DeLuey, I've read a lot of his books. He is fantastic. He's a Canadian author. Actually, I don't know if he's born in Canada. He does live in Canada.
What are you barking at?
What's wrong, baby?
It's boofing.
Anyway, he's the guy who wrote Suffer the Children, which is one of my favorite books. Probably one of the scariest books I've ever read. And he wrote a book we read last year called Episode 13.
That was a fun book.
He's incredible. Yeah. He also puts out like a new book every year. He's incredible. One of my favorite modern authors. So I'm reading that one right now. I'm listening to it on Audible. It's called How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive. And so our protagonist in this one, this is set in the 80s at kind of like the height of the slasher craze. And this guy has created a character who's honestly a lot like the driller killer in Slumber Party Massacre 2. But the movies have gotten to the point like with Freddy Krueger where they're made to be more just enjoyable now, and they're kind of goofy and people laugh and cheer, and he goes to the premiere and he is so disgusted because that's not horror. And then he finds what's basically a snuff film. So if you guys know the horrible incident that happened during the Twilight Zone the movie filming, there was a helicopter crash that killed the actor and the 2 small children that were in the scene. There's a fictional movie in How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive where something like that happened. There's a helicopter crash and it killed everybody but one person in the film. And he finds that film. And he's so horrified that he's like, oh, I want to make a movie like that. And he comes across a girl who's doing a lot of horror movies, like acting in them. And then he finds the camera that guy used. And it basically, I haven't gotten super far into it. I'm about like, I think 20% into it. Essentially, if you film with this camera, it will cause accidents to happen. People will die. And so you have to wonder, is he so desperate to make something truly horrifying like that movie that he's willing to let people he cares about die?
He's willing to make that sacrifice.
Yeah. So it seems pretty dark, and so far it's pretty good.
Okay.
So I've got that one. Goosebumps did it. I've got that one that I'm reading, and I'm also reading The Lost Girls. This is less than 200 pages, so this is it's also young adult. So my only complaint with this book so far is the writing is very young adult. That's not to mean bad. It's not to mean bad at all. And actually, I'm going to give Sonia a pat on the back and say that's actually good. Yeah. Because this is a companion to Twilight. This is the smart girl companion to Twilight. It is absolutely not overwritten. It's super easy to read. And because she's basically making a commentary on books like Twilight, because it's not just Twilight. There's Onyx, the one with the alien, it's basically Twilight. There's Mortal Instruments. There's so many Twilight knockoffs. Even if you hate Twilight, you can't deny that it launched a whole subgenre of young adult fiction. It reinvigorated the young adult genre.
Absolutely.
So she's kind of commenting on that in a way that I actually saw in My Babysitter's a Vampire, but I think it's done with a little more, it's just done with a little more care. So what's happened in this is she jumps right into it too. I think she could have actually stretched this out a bit more, because in our very first chapter, we find this girl who, bless her heart, she's working at Taco Bell and she's a vampire. And I realized, I was like, I love how she's thinking about this stuff. Yeah, if you got turned at 16, unless you have a lot of money saved up, you're never going to get a job as a CEO at Microsoft. Yeah. You're working at Taco Bell.
Yeah. Oh,
no one's going to hire you. If you look 16, you're kind of screwed. Unless, so she's working at Taco Bell. She has to kill someone about once a week. And essentially what happened to her is she fell in love in high school in the 80s. Oh, that's the other thing too. They're a lot like Anne Rice's vampires. Someone mentioned Anne Rice earlier, where in Anne Rice you're frozen. You're become like pinnacle of hotness, but you are frozen at that level for the rest of your life. So you can't cut your hair or anything. She was turned in 1987, so she's crimped hair and she really hates it. She also has a spot in her legs that she forgot to shave. And she's stuck with it for the rest of her life. And I'm just like, I feel the pain. But the worst part about it is she fell in love with this guy and he gave her the line. Again, you guys know I love Buffy. But he gives her the line like, I've never been in love before 100 years and you're the first person I loved. And she fell deeply in love with this guy because she was kind of a loser in high school. And this guy saw her and she let him turn her. And they were together for about 35 years. And then she realized that he's not that great. He's kind of a man-child. And then he breaks up with her, and now here she is. And the worst part about it is these vampires in this world, you're always drawn to your maker. So if he moves, she feels drawn to follow. And so she has no agency. And she hates that. So it gets really interesting. It gets really interesting. Okay. And I'm already loving it.
Cool.
She is confronted by two vampires. One of them's kind of 50s-ish. She's adorable.
Yeah.
And the other one's very tough.
Yeah.
These were also people who were turned by Elton, who I'm just picturing Elton from Clueless.
That's what I was thinking.
They even talk about how he's got the dark hair and the sharp jaw. So I'm picturing Jeremy Sisto from Clueless.
Love it.
How they were also changed by him. So originally the first one was changed in like 1926.
Okay.
And she knows the truth about him because they were human together. And he was supposed to be betrothed to another girl. That girl was actually a vampire. She turns him and then he turns her. And so it's like it's kind of like what happens after Twilight? What happens after these stories? Like how long do they really last together? Can they really last together? Or is it going to be like Interview with the Vampire? Like eternity's a long time.
All the time.
So, eventually he broke up with her and she left her really, really bitter and left her a vampire. And then he moved on to the next girl. This girl, I just started reading this book, guys. I don't remember the names, but basically this very sweet girl, polka dot dress, adorable from the 50s. Same thing. He goes back to high school and they keep making like comments like, why does he keep going back to high school? Like our main character really hates to be around living people. She hates that they have to go back to the high school and stuff. I'll explain why in a second. But he seduces this girl in the 50s. And then, he ditches her too. And then we get our main character who's from the 80s and now frozen like that. And they are all doomed to follow him around. These two girls confront him and they say he doesn't have to do that because his maker died. And apparently in this world it's very hard to kill vampires. The stake to the heart, it will eventually heal. They kind of play that they're afraid of crosses and garlic if they feel like it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt them. And they can be out in the sun.
Oh, crazy.
They basically explain that the reason why that myth exists is because vampires do not like to be around living with people.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
So they mostly are out at night when it's also easier to hunt. And so they sleep during the day.
Yeah.
So they really don't know how to kill a vampire. All they know for certain, you have to have every vampire that's ever made them. And thank you, Connie, for being a member for 17 months. Wow. Like one of the longest relationships I've ever had outside of my husband and my child. Like Connie, we're taking this to the next level and I am here for it.
Committed.
I'm committed.
Yeah. Okay.
So she doesn't, and I like that we have a mystery of how is he going to die. But they want to be free from him because they have to kind of follow him around. On top of that, he is seducing a new girl.
Okay.
And they also, they hate that they felt like they were kind of...
They have to protect her.
They want to protect her. you know, they're no longer in love with him, even though they feel drawn to him. They're really angry at him, especially the first two. But they don't want this girl to go through that. And what's really interesting, which I really like, is our main girl. So they basically tell her, hey, we're going to the high school. We're going to protect her. Just act like you belong. And she's like, but you also can kind of get this impression that this girl, her name's Parker, she's really likes this girl. Like, and so I think our main character's bi because she seems to be very attracted to her. So I'm kind of curious. I kind of want them to hit it off. But I don't want her to change her because it's defeating the purpose of the story.
Purpose,
but they really want to protect her. And it's going to take all three. Plus, the more people he changes, like the idea is that a vampire is really only supposed to change like maybe one person in their lifetime, that he's already done a lot of damage.
Yeah.
The more people he changes, the harder it will be to kill him because they all have to be together. So they have a lot of motivations for wanting to stop him from changing Parker. Parker is new to the school. She's not really fitting in. And already, like, and it's interesting too, because he stays in the same town. So she's gone to the school, our main character, whose name I can't remember, but like the teacher who was like the cool young teacher when she was a kid, who'd like throw Jolly Ranchers at them for getting it right. Everyone says that's the snore class now, and he's like 50 something. So she's kind of sad, and he recognizes her too.
Ooh.
So like it's really, really interesting. I think I just love how this author is looking at things that we've seen 1,000 times before and being like, well, what if we turn it this way and Rubik's Cube it?
Shake it up a little bit.
So this is less than 200 pages, people.
Cool.
And I think it's really creative. It's The Lost Girls by Sonia Hartle. I'm gonna write it in the chat. So please read this with me. If you and guys, if you're not already, join us on Goodreads because that's where I post stuff, and then also follow me because you can see what I'm reading. And Kayla, what she's reading.
My whole 6 books this year.
I'm reading that in the Craig DeLuey book, and then the other thing I'm reading to Danny right now, because I read to Danny, is I'm reading American Supernatural Tales, which is the Penguin Horror Classics. He just released a set of 6 of them that have introductions by Guillermo del Toro, but don't get super excited because it's the same introduction in front of all of them. But they did like Frankenstein and a whole bunch of other ones. This one starts with like the whole history of American supernatural fiction. So starting with like really old ones, it's got an Edgar Allan Poe, and it has one from each. And so it's got like an Edgar Allan Poe, it's got H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah. There's one really weird one in there that Danny and I were just like laughing our asses off. But there's some good. There's Stephen King in there. We haven't gotten that far yet. There's Shirley Jackson. So I'm reading that. I'm still reading these Buffy comics. I'm reading this book on Buffy and philosophy.
Yeah, a lot of Buffy on there.
Like if you want to like keep it what I'm reading, it's on Goodreads.
It's all there.
Happy to tell you about what books I'm reading. You could tell me what books you're reading. We could like spy on each other and then talk about books.
I could definitely use some more suggestions for book rut place. Like
I gave you a great suggestion.
You did, and I'm gonna read that one. And I need to get through this one. Like I said, I need to get it on Kindle because I'll get through it so much faster if I have it on Kindle. Because I like it. I like this Project Hail Mary book. I like it a lot.
It's really good.
It's really cool. It's easy to read. It's like the way that it like goes back and forth. You're like always guessing like what's gonna happen next on both arcs. Like how does he end up in this position, and how does this other position end up working out for him? Like it's really cool.
It's also going to be a movie too with Ryan Gosling.
Love him. God love him. We watched Fall Guy the other day. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't. Is it good?
I loved it. It's definitely not an action movie. It's a romance, but it was really sweet. I laughed a lot. I thought it was cute.
I also want to shout out a book channel I watch a lot. Since we're talking about books, one I really like is called Why the Book Wins, and she's not super big yet. Her name's Laura. She's also on Goodreads. She's really nice. But she will take books and read the book and then read the film adaptation, and she will tell you which one she thinks is better and why. Why the Book Wins is a really good channel, so do check that out.
Yeah,
it's my little booktube shout out. Magics. And we've got October coming out too. You know what I've been wanting to read that I'm going to read in October this year that I have the hardback over there is the Hocus Pocus sequel.
I have that too at home in hardback.
I'm going to read that.
Okay.
October.
Maybe I'll read The Exorcist.
We should read The Exorcist and Hocus Pocus.
Because Well, like I said, I'm taking 4 classes next quarter. I don't know.
I'm gonna read The Exorcist and Hocus Pocus.
But I have The Exorcist on my Kindle, so I know I can get through that one.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can lend you books on my Kindle. They used to have a thing where you could lend somebody a book for like 2 weeks at a time.
Well, if not, I'll just work it into my budget. I'll just make it work.
So many books. I'm so exhausted after I need a nap.
You need a nap. You need to go read a book.
I need a nap. I need a nap and a book. I actually do that when I'm at work. Like that's what I do for my break. I go sit in my hammock and read my books. But it's gonna get cold soon. I won't get to do that.
Take a blanket.
No one suffered. Like, oh my God, you are brilliant.
Take a blanket.
Your freaking brain.
Yeah.
Why is your brain so enormous and beautiful?
I love a blanket.
We just love you. Yeah. Like you didn't even read half these books, and you were still delightful to talk to. So thank you for being here.
I am sorry. I do feel really bad. Like I just.
You don't need to feel bad. What happens?
The beginning of the summer, I was like really defiant, and I was like, I'm not going to do any assigned reading. Like, I can't do it. I'm going to just read garbage. And I didn't even read garbage. I literally didn't read anything. I didn't watch that much TV. I haven't watched that many movies.
You know what?
I haven't done anything.
You feel bad about that. I feel bad that I keep saying I'm going to make these videos, and I still have yet to do it. So next month, you're going to have at least a book to talk about.
Yep,
one book. I don't care if it's the fantasy one. If it's project, you're going to have one book that you completed to talk about.
Yep.
I will have had a video out.
A Buffy video.
The movie one. I've already got it done. I should just finish it.
Yeah, just do it. We can do this, you guys.
And stay tuned. We're probably going to have one more book club on this channel, and then that was when we're going to introduce the new channel. Okay. So I'm going to have the logo and stuff. I have a month to get it done. Okay. And then next one, I want to have it ready. Mm-hmm. And then the one after that, we're going to move over. And what that will have, the whole reason for having a separate channel is that way Kayla and I can just do book content all the time. So I might do goofy stuff. Like I might read a book to you because I like to do that. And if you enjoy that, that could be something that's on there. Yeah. Kayla and I could do little reviews on our phones when we finish something really quick. Yeah. We can go to a bookstore and be like, oh, look at this beautiful cover. We can just do little short content like that. Yeah. We can do our streams. We can do a lot more stuff because it would just be book stuff all the time. Whereas on this channel, like that's not the only thing this channel is for. So it could, be a lot. It could be too much book stuff for some people. Some people just can't handle that much book stuff.
Some people just want to watch a scary movie.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the scary movie that you recommended to me?
Oh my God, yes.
I was home alone for a week and I was like, Haley, I want a really dark, scary movie. Like, I want something that's going to scare the poop out of me. So she brought me over a stack of movies. And the one I landed on was Martyrs. Apparently, it's a big deal.
It's considered to be one of the more extreme movies.
Oh, it's extreme. I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep all night long. Nobody would cuddle with me. Like my house, the energy was just off after I watched that movie. But you had a really beautiful explanation for it in the end that did make me feel better. But immediately after watching it, I was just like, the world is a horrible place.
For some people, it doesn't work. For me, it actually does. And I don't know if this is about me, but to me, the thing that resonates the most is about how if you have somebody who really loves you, no matter what, who's really there for you, you can survive anything. Yeah. And they have this beautiful friendship, and it kind of keeps her strong when she's at her weakest, when she's being just awfully abused. And then the end of it is, it's very much the whole point of the bad guys is that they want to know what happens to us after we die. And that can be frustrating for some people. But I think the whole point of the movie, not the remake, we don't talk about the remake, the OG, the French film. The remake really tries to give you an answer, and I think the whole point of the movie Martyrs is that we're not supposed to know what happens. That the not knowing it compels things like religions. It compels discussion and thought. And if we actually knew, it would make living so much harder, especially for this cult where that's their whole thing. And I think if you've seen the movie, to explain the ending, I think that the ending of the movie is essentially saying that you're going to be a lot happier not having that answer. So she says, keep doubting. Yeah. And she takes herself out of the equation.
But she doesn't stop them. That was the thing. She should stop them because they're monsters. But I do agree with the other part about, because something that when I'm watching movies, the way that Harry Potter hit me with is that love is the most powerful magic. Love is what saved Harry Potter's life. And you can see that in a lot of other things, like Lord of the Rings, their fellowship, their love, really makes Frodo able to carry the ring and not be completely overtaken by it. Love is the most powerful magic. And I see that in this movie having that conversation about it. But at the time when I watched it, that thought wasn't in my head. And I was just...
And Jack's here. And I feel like what the movie's trying to say is even that stuff isn't important. It's trying to say that ultimately what's important when we live is who we love and who loves us. And that's why during the credits, you see the video footage of the two girls when they were kids. Because no matter how bad it got, that love she had for her best friend, that kept her strong. Yeah. And that made it to where she could endure this suffering. And even her friend, I don't think her friend would have lasted very long without that friendship. Yeah. So I think the movie is trying to tell us that ultimately, like, that stuff doesn't really matter. If you knew it, you'd be very deeply unhappy. Yeah. What really matters is that you find people that you love and that love you back. Absolutely. That's just my interpretation.
Well, it's a really
so
beautiful...
me, it's a really happy, beautiful movie.
It's a beautiful interpretation of a messed up movie. Yeah. But I also have that, there's like 9 more movies in that stack I need to finish watching.
And like Jack says, he said the thing to remember, suicide is a sin. She'd rather risk that than hell than what she knew. And I also don't think that they were like traditionally Christian. Like they do believe in like the whole idea of martyrs, but they're also committing a lot of Christian crimes. So yeah, I think they're almost like they're like a cult. They're their own thing. So, but yeah, I mean, if she did believe in that at all, then yeah,
she would rather do that. But I didn't get that vibe either. That they were very like Catholic, that kind of religion. It was very culty. It was more like, it was almost more like they were scholars, right? Like they were studying.
Yeah, they were almost like scientific with it. They wanted to know definitively, is there a thing or is there not a thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And
because I think if they were really religious, they'd be afraid of like upsetting God. Yeah. Kayla, watch Inside and Antichrist now. I actually really like Inside as well, but that one's a lot. Inside is a Christmas movie.
Is it though?
But this woman whose husband died in a car accident, she's alone, pregnant on Christmas, and this other woman wants to break into her house and cut her open and take out her baby.
Oh God, awful. No, thank you.
It's a lot, but I think it's really good. But see, the thing is, like, I would say that is a bad time. Like, if you really just want to see depravity, to me, Inside is a good way to go. I don't get an ugly feeling from Martyrs. I really do feel like that friendship.
I don't now, but like I said, when I watched it, I was home alone. Doug was out of town, and I don't know, I was really stressed out too with just about life, and I just got into this headspace, and I literally didn't sleep all night long, and none of my animals would come and cuddle with me because I was being a lunatic. Like, it was just really rough.
And then Antichrist has genital mutilation, but I think the scariest part for me is Antichrist is also about like kind of like cults and stuff too. And it's about grief. But that's getting into Lars von Trier, which that's a whole it's like when you're doing philosophy and then there's Nietzsche. Like there's two different things. Like you can enjoy philosophy and Nietzsche can still be a lot for you. Right. You can enjoy artsy film and Lars von Trier may be a step too far. Okay. So we'll baby steps.
Okay, baby steps. We'll get there. I just want to watch a good, because the night before I had watched a scary movie. That was a scary movie, but it wasn't scary. It was on Netflix. It's called There's Like Someone Inside Your House or something. Oh, it was so stupid.
I didn't like that. The 3D printed face mask one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was so dumb. I was like, this is not scary at all.
Nicely done. A smashing performance by William Dafoe and his little Dafoe. Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't know what I gave you a stack of movies.
Yes,
I mean, okay, you know what you're going to watch next? This is what you're going to watch next. You haven't seen it. It's a crime against cinema. You're watching American Wolf in London.
Oh, yeah.
Also just another great movie about friendship, guys.
Well, we are getting ready for spooky season.
So we're it's the spooky month. Spooky mama month.
All the spooky movies we can watch, so we'll watch that one. Yeah. And I haven't seen, like, Dark Water was one that you gave me that I haven't
Water's
seen.
Really good, too.
I haven't seen The Grudge. There's a lot.
So. Yeah, we have a whole Japanese horror rabbit hole to go down.
That sounds like a good time.
Such a good time.
That sounds like a great time. Okay. Well, cool.
All right. We have a lot to watch, a lot to read. Yeah. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. And until we meet again,
blessed be.
What you